So this time we're back to talk about something that I know is very close to your heart. So the nature of love. I mean, my goodness, we could talk for hours, but what would you love to share about the nature of love?
Well, I think maybe it would be helpful to go back to the quote of Sid's that we started the last session with, because I think that kind of points in some directions related to the nature of love. So what Sid said, love is an intuitive way of life, knowing what to do and when to do it. Giving without fear or need of return. And that really helps me think about love in a couple of ways. One of the things that comes to mind is that, first of all, love is powerful. Love is courageous. Love is disruptive. Love asks us to stand up for it. I think we have a little bit of a, I don't know, namby-pamby kind of understanding of love on the whole in the world. I mean, yeah, there's romantic love and, there's the soft love that we feel for our children and our pets and, the grand awe we feel at a sunset and so forth. But love sometimes asks us to do really hard things. And everybody knows this, when my little grandson is here and he's going to do something that is not safe, love steps up and says no. And here's why. Sometimes I have to do things for him on his behalf that he just doesn't understand. He can't do for himself. But it's a good thing to remember that sometimes love is asking us to do things that we don't fully understand and don't know where it's all going to end up. Like, I love Frances Scovel Shinn's definition of intuition, or one of her statements about the nature of intuition. She says, intuition points the way without explaining why.
Yeah. Well, yes, that totally makes sense, doesn't it? We all know that.
Yeah. And how many of us, feel a knowing and follow it, even though we can't fully explain it to ourselves or other people, but we just know the rightness of it.
Or we stop ourselves following it because we think we need the answer to the why.
Yeah. And yet anyone who steps back and looks at life will recognize that, I often used to say to my clients that if I get a knowing that I have to drive through the dark from Washington, D.C. to Morgantown, West Virginia, it's about a 6-hour drive, in the dark, I know that I'm not going to be able to see the way, but as long as I turn my headlights on and I can see the next 50 to 100 feet in front of me, I'll be just fine.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what love does. It turns the light on the next few feet and we follow it. And then the light goes a little further and we follow that. And I think the degree to which we trust that is the degree to which we'll live a big life.
I had never considered that before, the love as a strong thing. Like, you're right, when we think about love as being soft, it almost is like an acceptance, a passive, a doormat is the word that comes to mind. That's too strong a word, but like just being nice all the time.
Yeah.
And actually, it can be incredibly disruptive. You're right, it can be, when we know, might be with our children, or, I keep thinking about the flower project that I'm running, where, to my mind, that's an expression of love, right? It's we grow flowers to give away to people, and it's disruptive to the flower farmers, right? It takes some courage, because I don't really know what I'm doing. and it takes some courage because it's not what my mind thinks I should be doing.
Yeah.
And yet I can't not do it. And I know it's an expression of love. Like, I know that. And my mind has all sorts of reasons to protest, but it does require some courage. You're right. And I'd never really thought about it that way, but it's a strong pull. And it has power to it. Like, I don't have to be powerful. That's what brings the power into the experience of it, right? Is that expression of love. That's like your battery that provides the power for you, right? I'd never thought about it that way. I'd have thought, oh no, love is just like sitting quietly and not disrupting anybody. And
like, it's interesting that, you know, Sid at one place said love was a living, breathing essence. It's an animate power. And in the first couple of books, Second Chance and In Quest of the Pearl, through his teacher Mama Leela, he speaks of love as a power. You know, Mama Leela talks about mana power. She was Hawaiian. So the power of life, recognizing that we are all the power of life. Miguel Luis Ruiz, you know, the man who wrote the Four Agreements, at one place is quoted as saying, "You are that," meaning we are that which unfolds the rose. Yeah. When I pull that into my heart, I am that which knows with absolute certainty how to unfold the majesty of a rose. Whoa, that's just powerful for me. Maybe I'm just a little, poetic. But I know what to do. And it's interesting that Sid in that quote says, knowing what to do and when to do it. That when you trust love, you know what to do and when to do it. And then I also think this is interesting, that he points out that the intuitive way of love gives without fear or need of return. There are two places within his work that Sid stresses that. One is in that quote in Quest of the Pearl. The second is in Enlightened Gardener Revisited, where Andy, the teacher in that book, is actually his wife is speaking about Andy and talking about how Andy moved through the Great Depression. The Great Depression was horrific for people. And Andy's wife said of him, he always seemed to know what to do and when to do it. And as a result, we moved through that with a lot of grace. And one of the things Andy always did was helped other people. He was far more concerned about other people than he was himself. I take that to heart. I think that's been something that's grown as a result of my exposure to the three principles, that I've become more giving and more willing to give without fear. It's like you give through the work with the flowers. You just give, even though your mind might say there are a bazillion other things you can do, but you know the rightness of it, and you give. You give and you give and you give. And that's the focus.
You know, what I was saying last time, that I was in the middle of doing something, and then I heard your, this is just like making it very real, but I read the quote that you were saying, and like giving with no need of, with no kind of desire for return. And what I had been doing, I'll fess up now, right? I was reading a book about how to create really good Instagram stories for my account, right? Because if you do this, this, and this, then people will sign up for your flower kits, or they will follow you, and then you'll get better engagement, and then and the reason your quote stopped me in my track is it was such a jarring of like, this is giving with total need of return and expectation, and this is not the feel of the project. This is not the normal, the feel of the project is a giving, loving expression for the sake of itself, for the sake of just the joy of it. And the thing that people respond to in the floral project that Grow With Me is the total, just the love of it. Yeah. And it was a jarring, because hang on a minute, ugh, you're like, ugh. But that's operating out of fear and insecurity, that I need to do this so that they will do that. It's totally not giving without, with no need for return. And it's like night and day, the difference. You find just, oh my goodness, of course that's what I've been doing, and it feels like you have to shake it off. It's horrible, and you just recenter back to the obvious, which is there's no need to do that. You can just show up and just do the love bit, which is so much more fun, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it's cleaner, and it's simple, and it's honest, and it's how life really is. And then the universe resonates back with that, I think.
Yeah, I love the way I love the way you pointed right back to the feeling.
Yeah.
And in that feeling, we might get divine guidance to do a particular thing that has a return.
Yes.
I mean, I think we're meant to be throughputs. Yeah. I welcome abundance coming through me, because that means I have more to give to the things that are close to my heart. And there's nothing wrong with having abundance. I mean, Sid pointed that very clearly. And if I get I remember, in a moment of a good feeling, I got information about, check into this thing about the Facebook algorithm. And it was really fun to learn about it. And I began to use it to my advantage and got more business. Yeah. I see that as divine guidance.
Yeah.
But it came from a different feeling.
Yes.
It wasn't this, like you said, this kind of lockdown or tight, anxious, or, I don't know.
I used to run my whole business from that, like my whole life. In fact, in businesses gone by, before I bumped into the principles, it would all be about, well, I know if I do this, then I'll get that. And if I do this, then they'll do this. And it was all like, because I had no awareness there was another way to be. The flower project really shows me that the abundance happens. Yeah. I get so much back from it when I stop trying to get something back from it. The abundance shows up, right? So in that space of love, all of a sudden there's thousands of people with flowers blooming all over the UK, and giving them all away, and they are expressing love, and they're so in love with their projects, and there's so much love in our Facebook group. And the minute I start closing down, it's like the whole that like everything constricts.
Yes.
Like there's like the universe constricts, and there are fewer flowers, and there are more complaints of people whose dahlias have been eaten, and there's more like mithering and worrying and worried posts, and there's people stop buying the flower kits. Like there's a literal constriction in the world of form when I get tight, and when I remember that, oh no, I used to say this project's powered by magic. Right? Not me, it's magic. When I kind of open back up to that feeling again, that your quote threw me back into, which is actually the default, luckily.
Yeah.
Everything opens back up again, and there's just like an exponential, like it's love but exponential, that just gets reflected back at you in the world. It's like that paradox of intention, like the very thing you want is in the letting go of all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're a clear channel, you're a conduit for mind in the form of love.
Yeah, exactly. I love the way you said that. The feeling of it and the articulate nature of it was really, really beautiful. And that's exactly what I experience.
Yeah.
That, love is a powerful force of expansion and evolution. Sid spoke of it. It's a benevolent force that is moving toward the good. That's why he called it intelligent. it's moving toward the good, it's moving toward higher order. And if we're in the flow of that, that's what we'll experience.
And we don't always, to my mind, we don't always know what's for the greater good.
Yeah.
Like I think I shouldn't be out doing flowers. I should be doing more sharing the principles, because that's for the greater good. I mean, like, what is more powerful than this conversation and helping people with anxiety and pointing people in the direction of the principles? Like, I can't think of better work to be doing. That's obviously how I should be being used. And I am, but a huge draw out to do like this flower stuff. And the other day I saw all the bees in the garden because of the flowers, and I just realized, who am I to know what's for the good of the greater good here? Like, I looked at the bees that were here that I didn't have last year, and I thought about the bees in all the thousands of gardens saving the planet, and I thought, who am I to know how what's for the good of, who am I to know? And then you're just left free to do all of it, I guess, but be used, I don't know, 10% over here and 90% over here, or 90% over here and 10% over here and 15% for something that will show up next year. Like, who am I to know how love wants to get expressed? What do we know?
Yeah, and it's so true. We just never do know how the interconnection of things is happening at the level of the invisible, and how something that we do, well, results in something that we could never have predicted. And yet every single human being I have ever met at some level has seen that. They've said, gosh, I took this action and I never could have guessed that in taking this action, XYZ would have occurred. It was perfect.
Yeah.
I love it that Sydney Banks says, at death, the full illumination of mind is born. I try to talk a lot about what I know. And when I kind of know things, but I'm not entirely sure because I haven't exactly seen it, I often will say there's something that Sid said that really makes sense to me, even though I've never experienced it. Now, I've never died, and I don't know what the full illumination of mind means, but I have a feeling, I just have this feeling that at some point, I'm just going to see the grand tapestry, the grand beauty of life and my interconnectedness with it all. And part of why I think that is because I have seen pieces of it.
Yeah.
We all have seen pieces of it where we say, thank God I did that, because XYZ beautiful thing happened as a result of doing it. Like the thing is beautiful, what you just said. I saw the bees.
Yeah.
And suddenly appreciated at a new level the perfection of working on this flower thing, that it all works together that there really is a divine design. And it's not, to me, a fated thing, a thing that's predetermined. I really think we're co-creators with it. And that every piece of good we do, everything we do to the best of our abilities from the heart with love, affects the fabric and evolves the fabric forward, evolves the universe forward in some beautiful way that, we might not appreciate until we leave this part of the illusion.
Yeah. Those things where people will know, it made no sense to me. I didn't know why. To go back to your kind of definition of, what was it you said? Being given a direction but no idea why.
It was Scovel-Shinn. Florence Scovel-Shinn says intuition points the way but doesn't explain why.
Yeah. And to my mind, that they're constantly thinking about what we're doing, thinking about how, like, what it's going to do to other people, like what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, should we be doing it? That's my worst one. Should I be doing this? Like when like my realization standing in front of the bees, it's like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
It was like all of that strips away, all of the doubt and the thinking and the questioning and the judgment and the analysis and all that stuff we can use the power of thought to do. It's like it just falls away and it leaves everything open again and quieter and more enjoyable. And I'm just, as the years go by, I'm just so less interested in gathering up a load of this crap and carrying it around with me as I try and live my life. I mean, I do it innocently, I do it all the time, but I have such a respect for the feeling of clarity, of just not knowing, of simplicity, of just going back to the feeling, that I'm just so much less interested than gathering a load of this up and then showing it to my friends and my coaches and my mentors and asking them to examine it for me. Why would you spend more time on it than you have to? Like, and then that leaves you free to move forward in that expression of love.
Yeah. And I think gradually, as you have experiences like your bee experience or my shovel experience, or, you know, any other hundreds like it that we've had, and your listeners have had, the more conscious you are of those, the more you see and appreciate and feel grateful for those, the more trust you have. And so my experience of finding the principles, when I first met them, people would often look at me and say, "Oh, you're so calm," because I had a pretty calm voice and I had developed kind of a calm persona, but I didn't feel calm inside. And I often say at that point, I lived about 20% in calmness and 80% in the sea of anxiety.
Yes.
And now, and you know, I would say within, it was probably a number of years, I found myself saying, well, I live 80% in calm and 20% in a sea of anxiety.
Yeah.
And now maybe it's even gotten to the point of 90% in a sea of calm and 10% in those experiences of anxiety. But boy, talk about, even though it was a gradual shift, what a difference it made, you know, overall in life. And there does seem to be an accelerating factor in appreciating and having gratitude for those conscious moments of intuition or love.
Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness I saw that. Thank goodness I experienced that. Yes, that's so beautiful. But the more I had that, the more they just came.
Yeah, and I'm hoping what people take away from this, what I'd love people to take away from this particular module is just like the examples that have come to mind for you as you've been listening. Now you know what they are. That's mind guiding you. That's, you know, what is mind? Where is this mind thing? Oh, that's it. That's your knowing of it. And it's already showing up in your life. And hopefully what you're taking from this is an understanding of what that is. And so a fresh appreciation for it, so that you get eyes for it, so you experience and see you can live from it more of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so, isn't it? It's so interesting that the principles are operating perfectly from the moment we take our first breath. We don't have to learn to use them. In a sense, they've used us.
Yeah.
You know, that we've just been operating according to the logic of the principles from the time we first became conscious in this life. And so we can't get to any particular age without having had experiences of miracles, intuition, knowing, synchronicities, whatever you want to call them, love, feeling ourselves powerful in love, sometimes in the smallest ways, knowing what to do to say to a grieving teenager, knowing what to do to comfort a scared pet, you know, knowing what to do to stand by our loved ones. And we're all creative. We're all incredibly creative until we think we're not.
Yeah. So profound. People think I don't understand how to use the principles properly. How do I use them differently? And what you just said there, like just when you just said, like we'd all know what to do to comfort a scared pet. It's like, you didn't learn that in a book. That's your intuition, right?
Yeah.
That's your intuition right there. Like, it's that ordinary. It's that everyday. It's that practical, and it's that at the end of your fingertips, already there. Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Linda. What a beautiful note to end on. And we'll be back next time, where I think we're going to talk about trust and then abundance and giving. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.